Thank you, Akeem. We are here at Allegiant Stadium opening night. We are joined by our insider, Josina Anderson. Josina, huge crowd around Travis Kelce. We saw you work your way in there. What were you able to talk to Travis about?
Well, obviously he's been here quite a few times as far as the Super Bowl experience, but one, I was just curious just about how his relationship with Patrick Mahomes has evolved, and then I wanted to use that question to lead in how he feels like he's helping him to kind of deal with the headlines that set the table once everyone got here at Las Vegas. You know, you weren't expecting it to be that quickly, but that, of course, being the news that Patrick Mahomes Sr., you know, had a DWI arrest Saturday in their home state of Texas. And obviously, not only is that just troublesome in and of itself, but just the fact that it's the third time, according to court documents cited by the KC Star, and then also because he's facing jail time. So while that is not Patrick Mahomes, and clearly that is separate, but it's still his family member. It obviously is still going to weigh on his mind, guys. And when you put that in the context of the 2020 season and the Kansas City Chiefs going through that with Andy Reid and his son Britt Reid, and how he had his own DUI arrest and obviously injured a very young 5-year-old girl at the time, Ariel Young, who was in a coma for 11 days. They did not win that Super Bowl. So I was curious if there's something that they could take from that experience that would help them to compartmentalize better. And that's the word that he used. He said, we have to continue to compartmentalize. I've been with Patrick Mahomes for a long time. I know that he's like an expert at separating things, but he's still human. So we're going to continue to be there for him. But he's done a, I don't even know if excellent is the word, but he's done a good job in trying to be the leader for the team and trying to keep personal situations separate from the team as best as he can.
Yeah, Breach, we've seen over the course of the Super Bowl, sometimes things happen in the days leading up to Super Bowls that can potentially be distractions to teams. And this is obviously one of those things. I wonder how, as a team, and maybe your dad would have some experience just playing in the NFL so long and playing those Super Bowls, about how you would deal with this adversity so close to the biggest game of your life.
Well, it's interesting because, as Josina said, you do have to compartmentalize it, and you do look at these teams who have had to deal with distractions. Now, this isn't necessarily anyone on the roster, but you go back, you mentioned my dad with the Bengals. They had Stanley Wilson in Super Bowl 23 before playing the 49ers. They lose that game. You lose a key fullback. You look at the Falcons when they were playing in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. Eugene Robinson, a distraction. They lose that game. You look at Barrett Robbins with the Raiders when they played the Buccaneers. Distraction, they lose that game. So these things obviously weigh on you, and it's not easy to just, we're all human, so it's not easy to just tuck these things away, even though that's what you want to do. So it will definitely be interesting to see how Patrick Mahomes responds to this news.
Did Barrett Robbins end up in Mexico?
That's right.
All right, okay. I just make sure I remember right. So that was a huge distraction because that player was just MIA. Now we're just talking about mental distractions and having to deal, you know, with emotions and gathering that back. But I think the good thing for the Chiefs is that even though they weathered football adversity during the season, that they're able to lather the momentum from multiple wins in the postseason that, you know, quite frankly, some people didn't necessarily think that they were going to get. And I would have to even say, for me, beyond just having to compartmentalize the distractions, is the evolution of this defense under Steve Spagnuolo. When he first took over as DC, they weren't that great, particularly against the pass. And for them to have a dominant performance against the Ravens, you know, in the AFC Championship, they have a more balanced attack.
Not only that, and actually I would be interested to see, did you talk to Odell Beckham about how that game ended and what happened?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him about the resolution of the game. I will say I feel like he's still trying to get over the emotions of the game.
Sure.
Because quite frankly, you know, let me see if I can say this, but, you know, any player would like to be more involved in the game plan, and he still feels like he has.
Gus Edwards feels the same way.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? From a running standpoint. But obviously, you know, just feeling like he has more to give. But, you know, I still feel like, and I understand what you're about to get as far as, you know, not rushing more the stuff with Gus Edwards, but I still feel like, and Chris Jones just said this, I said, why do you think that you guys are having more dominant defensive performances? And he said it's actually because the offense is not concentrating on getting these long bomb balls all the time, which makes the defense have to come back on the field that much quicker. They're getting more rest because the offense is having more of a balanced attack, which is creating longer time of possession, which is creating more rest for the defense. So that's why they feel like it's coming together under Steve now.
That's a great point, because early on in Patrick Mahomes' career, he was throwing deep balls all day long at a higher rate than anyone else, and now they are doing more of a, not a dink and dunk offense, but they're sustaining those drives. Justin, let me ask you about the other side, because you and I were talking about this with Breach before we came on air here. During that 3-game losing streak in the middle of the season for the 49ers, we heard Kyle Shanahan say, frankly, straight out, Steve Wilks made some mistakes in that loss to Minnesota. Any concern if this game gets out of hand in terms of the Chiefs running up the score? Steve Wilks, how's his future look?
Well, I think we have to talk about this kind of as a pass. So when he first got there, I definitely think there was an acclimation period. You kind of saw Nick Bosa, at least appearing to me, let me make sure I choose my words correctly, like he wasn't necessarily feeling it, because it's different. The two previous defensive coordinators and Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans were ingrown. And then I feel like you saw it change once they traded for Chase Young right at Halloween, and that took away some of the attention away from Nick Bosa. He had about 3.5 sacks before the trade deadline. Now he has 8 since then. So you at least see that adding some defensive attention has allowed Nick Bosa to flourish some. However, when you look at the division round game against the Packers, that was just a disaster.
Not great.
And I don't even understand how they were wearing the wrong cleats and the other team was wearing the right cleats. So that's
at home.
At home. I don't even understand how that happened. And then you look at the first half against the Lions. I mean, they were just completely not in the right gaps. Things weren't going well and what have you. But John Lynch, the general manager, said a very interesting thing, because when you went back and look at the tape, he said you can't just blame guys like Chase Young and use them as scapegoats and things like that. What they saw was that there was an execution and effort issue all around. And John Lynch said this is going to be the last time that we see that. He put it down on the 2nd of February coming into the Super Bowl saying we better not see that again. So I expect them to perform better defensively, having learned from that experience. But if they do not, and we've got a lot of vacancies with the coaching carousel, and the Dallas Cowboys are trying to figure out right now who their defensive coordinator is. Hopefully there will not be another vacancy with the 49ers if for some reason they're completely unzipped and not playing cohesively.
Hey, Breach, before we get out of here, tell us who the most important special teamer is on either side, because Jake Moody versus Harrison Butker feels like a mismatch. Another Jake Moody, rookie, 99th overall pick, struggled at times, so you can go punter, you can go any direction you want.
No, I'll say it's Jake Moody. He's a rookie kicker. You think that rookies go out there, they don't understand the pressure of a Super Bowl, and Moody has struggled over this past month with a missed field goal in his last few games, including one in the playoffs. So rookie kicker Jake Moody, all eyes on him. The 49ers will need him to make all his kicks, because on the other side you have Harrison Butker, who's been one of the best kickers in the NFL in 2023.
All right, Pick Six crew, Josina Anderson, and to borrow a phrase from Josina that I just learned, I'm going to lather the momentum to send it back to Akeem in Stanford.